Hello, and welcome to an edition of the We Talk Chelsea podcast. Three Chelsea fans united by a love of Chelsea Football Club, where they met at Sunday League, and we are sans Temba once again. Honestly, this bloke, I don't know how the hell he's affording it. This man is living it up in Vegas right now on his secret scouting mission in the USA at the moment, and 3 weeks on the bounce is just not good enough, Charlie. I think we're just going to have to advertise his position elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows what kind of deals he's conjuring up with that over there with Todd Bowley, but we'll be finding out next week. But it's been another a lively week, hasn't it, at Chelsea? And Tom, keep us get us up to date with the news.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do my absolute best to keep us up to date with that. There's a lot to go through. So what we'll do is we'll start at the very beginning. So first week of Maurizio Pochettino, and he's doing his beastly fitness sessions. For the benefit of people who aren't aware of this, uh, Pochettino for the first 2 weeks of all of pre-season does something called a GACON test. I had not heard of it. You and I both went, so is that a bleep test? Like, we've all done them at school. Like, I was terrible at them. I was always first out because I was grossly overweight. Still am. Anyway, I digress. But the GACON test is essentially 45 seconds of sprinting, 15 seconds rest, and then with each increment, the distance you have to run in the 45 seconds of sprinting then increases, so on and so forth. And it's funnily enough, Ben Chilwell is the top performer. He won the GACON test. I have to keep looking because it looks like bacon, but I can't. It's just one of those things, isn't it? I've just got bacon on the brain. Don't know what that's on about. But the inside news from that is the squad already seem fitter already as a result of this. They look more organised according to the reports compared to last season, and they're looking like there's a greater sense of camaraderie. We can't just put that entirely down to Maurizio Pochettino, can we? Considering the amount of people that have left the club, could that be an element to it, Charlie?
I think he was. We knew, didn't we, when he came in, and he's had a a couple of months to get his head around the job that he's going to have to do. We've all know the way he manages teams. It's all about press, fitness, that kind of thing. And I think he's obviously. I'm guessing on the training ground, there's probably no balls out at the moment. It's just straight in, running around and he'll look at people and it sounds funny, but people like Gallagher, he's the sort of guy I have a funny feeling that Potts will probably warm to because I think he's a good trainer and that there are people in that squad who probably weren't good trainers who've come out and I think people like Gallagher, he's one of those that will stay in.
Yeah, and I have to say, I think it's one of those things. I'm surprised Conor Gallagher didn't win it. To be honest with you, I genuinely thought he would do that. You know, the fitness test is probably a good thing. When we look at the likes of players that you've probably had somewhat of an issue with, not an outright issue, but with players that aren't as consistent in terms of their fitness. So, would this be beneficial for players like Reece James to kind of bring things, make this the priority of him for this season?
I mean, I'm not. I don't claim to be a physio or anything like that, but I think certainly it helps, doesn't it? Running around this sort of thing, and I think some of these players they need to. Last season, it was such a mess. There was players coming in and out of the team, getting injured left, right, and centre. I mean, people forget that in December we had that huge injury crisis and that's
Yeah,
why we went a bit wild in January, wasn't it? If you remember back, so
yeah.
there was clearly an issue there in the training ground, and look, that's got to be a good start, hasn't it? That these guys are getting drilled a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Dale here. Hope you're good, Tom. Don't know if it's hay fever. You're feeling under the weather, sound a bit stuffy. It's completely hay fever. It's kicking my ass at the moment. Speak of the devil. Look who rocks up, thinking can't join. Tem CFC. Look at him. I think it would be important for someone like Reece James who will see whether he holds his fitness. I think you should probably log into StreamYard and join the stream. Lazy sod. He's probably just in a casino right now, drinking all the free alcohol, knowing him.
Mm.
Anyway, he does say Gallagher hasn't joined that yet from the
I
pictures
didn't
I've
know
seen.
that. Oh,
So
okay.
maybe the next time they'll do another event, and that'll be the case. Gallagher will win that and beat Ben Chilwell. I think a good thing that we need to move quite swiftly on this week is this week. This morning, Chelsea have launched a new home kit with no sponsor. It was been wildly rumored what the kit is going to be a throwback to the 90s, the 1997, 98 kit. It was with Dennis Wise and Roberto Di Matteo were a part of the launch. Uh, I personally like it. I'm not a big fan of the iridescent kind of hollow, glowy like Nike tick and the badge. I think it would look a lot cleaner if it was just like the gold that they were going leaning in towards. Um, but yeah, but it just says a lot at the moment about I think sometimes with Todd Bowley at the moment, I feel like sometimes we see him take a step forward, and sometimes it's a case of two steps back. And I think the fact that we haven't managed to pin down a sponsor at this stage of the season so far, and we don't actually know why. Like, is it a case of Bowley asking for too much? It could potentially be something like that. I'm sure there's no company that doesn't have that investment inside Clear Lake Capital that probably wasn't want to advertise at Chelsea. It's bizarre. Do you not think it's a bit weird to not have a sponsor at this stage of the season that we're the Nottingham Forest of last year?
Um, it's a weird one, isn't it? In a way, it is weird, yeah. But then at the same time, I suppose what's the offset? That's the way that I'd look at it. What do we lose by not releasing a kit next week, for example, or releasing in a month's time? Does it matter that much? And is part of the thinking is that we're getting this, uh, positive thinking, if that makes sense, with Pochettino, with the training, with all
Mm.
this sort of stuff going on, transfers, all this sort of stuff, that maybe we can negotiate a better deal as a result of that. Plus, maybe again, it comes down to FFP. I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I don't think it's got anything to do with FFP. I think it's more to do with, I think, fan pressure at points because we were one of the last clubs to actually release what the kit's going to look like. Also, shout out to Brentford, by the way, having the same kit for 2 seasons in a row. Big respect, throwback there. Not money grabbing bastards, unlike the majority of the top six. Um, but anyway, I digress. But what was I saying? The kit. It's nothing to do with FFP. I think it's bizarre because I think I've been speaking to some of my other Chelsea friends, supporting friends. I do have some, Charlie. They just live in different countries. They go to a different school, and they were saying how they actually would prefer to buy the kit without the sponsor. And I'm sure there's probably a market out there for fans to want to actually buy the kit without a sponsor on it because I've seen people saying, "Oh, it looks weird without a sponsor. I don't like it. It shouldn't be the way it is." But to me, it's a Chelsea shirt. It's not an Allianz shirt. I'm not walking around like an advertisement for Allianz. I'd happily pay more for a shirt that didn't have a sponsor on it. I think that's more to do with it. But Dell here's a thing here. So Dale said there's been a few issues. So let's have a look at. So while it was a rumor to be Paramount Plus, but got pulled. So yeah, the rumor was that Paramount Plus, we agreed a deal in principle for Paramount Plus to be on the front of our kits, but unfortunately in America, where the Premier League games are shown, it's not Paramount Plus as direct competitor. So it looks like the Premier League actually put a stop to that, which I think is it's a bit smelly. Do you not reckon? Do you think it's a bit smelly to say, oh, actually, do you know you can't take that, but the Saudis can come in and buy Newcastle?
Yeah, but I think every sponsor that's come along, we've been very picky, haven't we? We've tried to get the best deal clearly in terms of money, and we've got basically the most shadiest kind of deals going, if you like, to
Mm.
try and get the most money. So we had what was it, a betting company?
Stake.com, which I think there was a
Yeah,
big pushback from a lot
from
of the
normal
sections
fans,
fans. Yeah,
including myself, right?
I
I,
didn't
I, I
want it.
don't
Yeah,
I don't agree with that. I wouldn't agree with someone putting an alcohol company, for example, on the shirt either. I just don't agree with that. I just don't think
the
it's the right
Coors
thing to
Light
do.
logo on the Chelsea shirt in the mid
Years
'90s was good
ago,
though.
but
It
but
was
that's
good.
all it. Yeah, but it's still, you
I
know what
get
I'm
it.
trying
I
to
get it.
say. The Allianz one was like Tim's saying here. The Allianz one was a stadium, and possibly maybe a kit as well. I'm not sure how that one worked.
Yeah,
And then the Paramount Plus one, obviously, that was again a shady deal because that was in complete, um, in a complete conflict with uh, the local, if you
yeah,
like, the local TV rights that we have in the UK. So um, I think Clear Lake, they're obviously savvy business guys. I don't think anyone's going to deny that. They're obviously doing, but it's all kind of shady deals, if you like. It's all this sort of, these sponsorship deals are kind of they're waiting for the biggest one, but they come at a price all the
Yeah.
time, and it's very similar to the way that we've sold players this summer. We're waiting for the best deals all the time. We're selling to Saudi Arabia.
Mm,
We're making these really kind of outrageous deals, aren't we? Left, right, and centre. I
mm.
think that's just the way that they have to operate. That's just the way that we are going to operate from now on. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I really don't know. I think I'd rather buy the kit now, and I think it's a bit ridiculous how they're waiting. They said, "Oh, we'll announce the kit now, but you've got to wait another 5 weeks before you can buy it," which just smells of, yeah, you can buy it, but once we sorted out the sponsor deal, and basically they're just giving themselves another 5 weeks to try and get a name on the front of the shirt, which I think is ridiculous. Like I said, I'm sure I don't speak for like every Chelsea fan, but I'm sure I speak for a few, and I said I'd much rather buy it without a sponsor on it. And you
But
are right.
are they selling it now without like as it is, or
You can't
they're
even
not
pre-order it now. I had a look
really?
because
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to see how much it would be because I'm fairly set. It was £75 last season, so for like the regular like replica one, so not even the match vapor nonsense thing. But I'm fairly certain it's going to go up to 80 quid because the training kit has all gone up by a fiver, which is kind of expected. But at the same time, if you want to buy a training like drill top or something like that, it's £65.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's extortionate, and it's £65. It's ridiculous. Like I just everything I do, I just wait for the sales now because there's just no point paying full price. But I'll be tempted to wait. It I probably would try and buy the home shirt if they said, yeah, you can buy something now, but it's without the sponsor on the front. I probably would then buy it because I don't want to then buy something that's got the logo of the sponsor on later down the
Oh,
line. As I'd rather spend a bit more to not have the sponsor out. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, I think the shirt looks pretty good, to be honest. It's one of the,
I
it's
like
a
it.
pretty original, nice looking shirt. But of course, this is again, it's all business. You can't. They have to probably order a million of these shirts at a time. They're not going to risk ruining a business deal with a sponsor
Yeah,
by ordering it with no sponsor, if that
yeah,
makes sense. And
yeah.
I suppose that's the game ultimately.
I saw a video somewhere. I think it was for like Manchester United shirts or something. It might have been on TikTok, but you found out how much like it costs to make shirt like that, like the stadium edition, and it costs on average between £8 and £9 to
Mm,
make the actual shirt, which is insane. The rest just goes to the place that sell it, to Nike as well, so they'll get a portion of it, and like Chelsea will get a portion of it, and it's £8, and the markup on that is what you add what almost 800% on top of that, 900% on top of that. It's crazy. It's absolutely
mm,
crazy. Anyway, I digress. I wanted to float back to this thing, to Pochettino. So a main thing that Pochettino's having to deal with is he hasn't had the full squad back. Obviously, players like Liver Colwell, Noni Madueke away with the under 21s at the moment. Other players like due to come back. It's rumoured that Romelu Lukaku is due back tomorrow, I believe. And at
mm.
the moment, the camp is kind of split into two. It's players that are definitely locked in to stay, and it's interesting to see what it look like when Levi Colwill comes back into the fray, which group he goes into. I'm fairly certain he's going to stay with Chelsea. I mean, there's kind of outside rumours that other clubs are interested, and I don't doubt that clubs are interested. Clubs like Liverpool, Brighton, that's the famous one, are interested in Levi Colwill. But I'm fairly certain he will stay. But the interesting thing in this scenario is that it's split into two, and I personally would have been advocate for that before the end of the season, with all the previous managers say, okay, you don't want to play. It's clear you don't want to play. Just split the club, just train elsewhere. Just it doesn't matter. Like, gone are the days of just chucking players into the reserves. Like, I wish you could just do something like that now. It's just one of those things. But it's looking like players like Hudson-Odoi, Hakeem Ziyech, Romelu Lukaku. I think Ethan Ampadu as well, another player like forgotten man. He's due to come back as well. Is there any of those players that you might potentially would like to see given a chance in the first team? Like, I don't think Ethan Ampadu's done anything wrong. I just think it'd be interesting to see like Ampadu or Hudson Odoi in front of fresh eyes, in front of Pochettino.
Yeah, but I suppose it's one of these situations with the likes of Colwell where it's kind of like, well, we've got so many players in that position. We know that he's going to play. Potts is probably going to play two. I'm
Yeah,
guessing at the
he's
back,
the route.
almost
I
definitely.
believe. Yeah, I believe it's going to four at the back.
Yeah. So if he plays a two, it's going to be Silva and Fofana. Let's say at the moment, those are probably the two most experienced
Maybe, but
players.
I think
But
I,
Badiashile needs a chance, and
yeah,
you can sometimes just be too loaded with players. That's just the way it is,
you could,
and
but do you not think a way around that is potentially loaning out Trevor Chalobah until Thiago Silva retires at the end of next season, which I'm fairly certain he probably will.
but we don't need four. Four in a two is just too many.
But you do need four. What if one gets injured? You need a centre back on the bench, don't you?
Yeah, you probably
You
have a
need four.
three. You probably have three. You probably and work it around. I know last season we had this problem, but I just think that a player of that stature and
Mm.
the way he's going straight up. You can hold him back a little bit. It might not be a bad idea just loaning him out for another season. And it sounds bad, but
The problem is with that is I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal. I mean, Tem will probably message in the comments now and say otherwise, but I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal. And obviously, once he comes back, the negotiations are back in place to extend that deal because we do see him as part of the first team. I don't think he's going to sign a contract and then go back on loan willingly. I think he wants to see that commitment from Chelsea, which I'm fairly certain he will receive. Which does mean, unfortunately, I think players like Trevor Chalobah is probably going to be the player that could be cast aside in that scenario, um,
but if you've
and
got a
go out
two,
alone or
if we go on a two, if you go on a two, and
yep,
you've got, let's say, like Silva's going to play. Let's fingers crossed he doesn't, get injured or anything. He's going to play basically every game next
yep,
season again, right?
yeah,
Probably be his last season at Chelsea. Fofana, again, fingers crossed. He's probably the next in line. He's Silva's. He's the in my opinion, he's probably our best replacement for Silva, like man for man.
yeah.
Badiashile's done nothing wrong. He should
No,
be playing every week, in my opinion. Um, Chalobah's not really done anything wrong.
he hasn't.
And so do we actually need? It's like we're doing the same. We've done this so many times over the years,
The
where we
problem,
just overfill because there's someone who's got a talent, we overfill.
yeah,
But you've got to
the
bear in mind
problem
that these
is
players like Badiashile, they've only just joined. You can't just sell them tomorrow. It doesn't work
exactly,
like that.
which is why Chalobah is probably going to one on the way out because I think in the grand scheme of things, Levi Colwill, like I watched the under 21 final. Um, I'll confess that I haven't watched much Brighton or Levi Colwill before. So the under 21 final, I've made sure I paid special attention to Levi Colwill, and he looks so self-assured on the ball. He looked calm. He looked collected. Like he's really strong in the tackle. His distribution was fantastic.
Yeah.
Colwell over Chalobah, like you're right. Chalobah has done nothing wrong, but I think the ceiling is much higher for Levi Colwell than Trevor Chalobah, and I would love for Chalobah to stay, but I think he's probably one of those players that's probably going to be put on the chopping block.
But then what we're saying, if we're going to play two at the back, if you think about it now, let's say
Yep,
Silva goes, right? Silva goes
yep,
tomorrow, right? We've got Badiashile, yeah.
yep.
We've still got Fofana,
Who is
right?
mostly injured a lot.
Right. So that's it. So because he's injured a lot, that's the reason. We
I mean,
never. You have
but
to.
you
The
said
quality
yourself,
of those players, they deserve first team football.
hundred
That's the way
percent,
that I'm
one
looking
hundred
at.
percent. But it's like you said yourself. We had the issue back in January with a lot of those injuries in the midfield area, where we had barely
Mm.
anybody to play in that area. So you have to have that thing. I think having three spreads yourself too thin. You need to think, okay, what if these two players get injured? Then I'm down to bare two, and I've got no centre backs on the bench.
Yeah.
So I think you need four, and I think it's just having that discussion with some of these players, with like especially with Thiago Silva. It's going to be his last season. I think you probably see him in a reduced capacity um, this season. I think they're going to manage his game time a lot more to try and get the most out of him. I'm fairly certain to
I think
give the opportunities.
loan Chalobah out, but I think by all
I think so.
accounts he's probably going to just off. But
Yeah,
that's what the rumours seem to be saying, isn't it? And he is Dale. He is. relatively
He's
not that young.
23. He's
Yeah,
23, so he's
yeah.
he's older than Fofana. He's older than Badiashile, and he's older than Colwill. So he would be considered the experienced one of the thing. And I think all
Mm,
those players that are younger than him are probably better
better.
than him.
Yeah,
And
that's
I think
true.
that's
Yeah,
it's a shame. I think it's one of those things. Oh, Temba saying 24 or 25. I think it's 24. But still, it's it's one of those things. I think he's probably going to be that player on the chopping block, unfortunately, unless he moves to a different position. Which the problem is, you got Reece James, but you got Malay Gusto that's
he's
taken over
not.
here in that area. So
I don't think
he's
he's got the
probably not.
legs, unfortunately, for that. He doesn't seem. I don't think Chalobah's got like the quality going forward, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, for the left or right back slots.
No, I have to agree. Probably is. So what we do is probably move across now. Let's look at some of the stuff that. Do you want to do incomings or outgoings?
Uh, let's do what incomings are we going on about? Because we haven't really. We seem
We got
to.
we got. There's two at the moment. One is well publicised, and to be honest, all right, we'll do that one. All right, this Caicedo deal is absolutely dragging.
Mm,
It's been a few weeks now. Obviously, it's rumored. I think it's been close to a month now since we were rumored to put a bid in for him, and it is dragging. Initially, we put the offer through. I think it was like 70 million to be done in installments, and then Brighton were holding out for 80 million. But the problem is Declan Rice and the sale that he's potentially going to make from West Ham to Arsenal
Arsenal.
has mean that Brighton has suddenly revised it and say, well, the going rate for players in that position at the moment is 100 million. But I don't think that's the case. To you, Charlie? He's not a £100 million player.
Yeah, well, it's the problem, isn't it? We don't have a we seem to be selling quite well at the moment, but we're buying pretty badly. I mean, we haven't bought anyone, but in the history, we seem to
We
be
have
getting ripped
Nicholas
off.
Jackson. How dare you besmirch the
But
name of
again,
Nicholas Jackson?
even that one was Bournemouth had a deal agreed for 22 million 5 months ago for the same player, and the only
Yeah,
reason that he didn't sign is because he failed a medical.
yeah,
So I think like my opinion of Caicedo is they're pushing it further and further and further and further, seeing how much we got. And the thing is, we everyone knows what we sold Mount for this week. Everyone knows what we sold
ugh,
Havertz for last week.
yeah,
And everyone knows how much money Bowley's got in his pocket, and that's the problem.
yeah. I think
And
I think the
Brighton have
key thing
obviously got
is,
to find a replacement as well. So they're probably scouting themselves, going, well, hang on a second, what can we, what's on the market at the moment?
mm,
We need to agree. They need to agree a deal because they know he's going. I mean, I think it's
they've
fairly
told him he can
accepted.
leave. They've
Yeah,
told him he can leave. Yeah,
it's
but
fairly
I think
accepted that he's going, but under certain circumstances, one of which is we had to sell Mount and Havertz, which we've done now. We've got the money, we've got the collateral, we've got
yeah,
the money. But now it's a case of can Brighton agree a deal with someone else for another player? And it's
yeah.
just a merry-go-round, isn't it? And you know,
It's
that's
that knock-on
that's how it
effect. But
looks. Mm,
knowing Brighton and their scouting team, will probably end up, recruiting them within the next 2 years anyway. Again, but they'll find some wonder kid based out of Latvia to put in that position, no doubt. Caicedo, Dale saying Caicedo transfer season going to be in the works for at least the next 2 to 3 weeks. Unfortunately, I have to agree. It's likely that's going to be very protracted. I think we're the only club in for it, in for him. So I don't think I'm particularly worried that it's going to go. But we're looking quite bare in that position. Really, we're looking quite empty. We've got Conor Gallagher, Enzo, we've got Lewis Hall, who actually is a centre midfielder, but Carney Chukwuemeka is probably going to go out alone by all accounts. Um, but it's just we're looking bare, and you need that first team and that kind of player that's going to replace a fit Kante. That's going to do that mopping up, lay the pass off for Enzo Fernandez to get the best out of Enzo Fernandez in the next season. But yeah, it's
has
bizarre how it is.
Potts ever said anything about Caicedo or anything like that?
No,
Or is
not
it just
publicly, but I don't.
mm,
I think Caicedo. The rumours for Caicedo started before Pochettino's official
mm,
announcement, anyway. So I'm fairly certain he would have been on the radar for the recruitment team because they worked with him at
mm.
Brighton and they recruited him to Brighton, so they're already like massively aware of him. It's just a case of okay, well, you know, what we know. We know this player's good. We know this player and how he's going to develop. We've monitored him for X amount of years, so they're probably just saying, yeah, he's the person that we get for him. We should put in for Caicedo. It's just bizarre. I think the main thing on it that I'm not a massive fan of is like he's not £100 million player. The reason why Declan Rice is £100 million because he's not £100 million player. It's the English tax in the Premier League. That's all it is. Like any English player now, especially like between Premier League clubs, he's going to have that tax on it just simply because he's English. Because you have to fulfil the quota of having is it 7 or 8 homegrown players?
He's not. Caicedo's not English, is he?
Declan Rice.
Hey, Declan Rice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
But that's
course,
not
yeah.
what they're considering. It's like that it like Brighton say,
I think
oh, it's
Declan
100
Rice
million,
is,
but
but I think Declan Rice for 105 is a much better deal than 100 for Caicedo. I'm sorry.
well, it
I just
is,
think he's
but I
he's
don't
just a
think
much
he's.
better player.
Oh,
He's more
I'm gonna
complete. He's more experienced. He's more proven in the league.
mm,
He's a leader. We
I'm
need
not
leaders.
a leader. Yeah, we'll talk about leaders in a second, but I don't know. I don't get the Declan Rice thing. I'll be honest. It's purely an opinion, and who am I? I'm just an idiot. We're all idiots at the end of the day. I don't work in football. I don't scout players. I play FIFA and Football Manager occasionally. But Declan Rice, I don't see it. I don't see what the £105 million player is. Like if you told me like Bellingham is going for cheaper.
Yeah,
Bellingham
true.
went
Yeah,
for cheaper.
Bellingham's a better player, but I think and a better prospect. But I think Rice is this season, from what I in the last half of this season, I think he's got a hell of a lot of ability. That guy. I didn't think
Yeah,
it before, believe it or not.
yeah.
I actually didn't, but watching him, he can do a lot, and he can drag a team. He reminds me of Steven Gerrard. He can drag a team through a
Mm.
you know to a result, if that makes sense. He can, you know,
Yeah, no,
score a goal, get an
I get it.
assist.
He's probably added some more dynamism. That's the word, dynamism to his game and being more direct and like dribbling forward with it. But it's just, I think it's probably you touched on a key thing here that probably is a nice transition for that is moving across. It's like he's a leader.
Mm.
There's got to be a new Chelsea captain at some point. The club captain Cesar Azpilicueta is released on a free. He's joined Athletic Madrid. You know, we saw that video. I'm sure you saw that video. For the benefit of people who didn't, I was watching it and I could have sworn somebody was cutting onions. I could have sworn somebody was cutting onions, and it was
Yeah,
just,
big time.
I watching it. I'm quite. To be fair, I think it's ever since I had a kid. I think like since I had a kid, I get more emotional, like to like the smallest of things. And
Mm.
you saw him welling up. I'm like, Jesus Christ! Now this is a player that absolutely loved playing for Chelsea. Kind of knew that his time was coming to an end and accepted the fact he's probably isn't going to play as much as he wanted to next season because he doesn't fit that kind of Pochettino mold. He probably didn't want to leave, but he knew he had to make that choice. And I think it's night and day compared to how he left, compared to a video, another player, he who must not be named, um, released, when they pre-recorded that 4 weeks ago and then put it on their social media a week before um, it was actually announced, and it just made you realize just how many big moments Aspilicueta had been a part of. Do you know what I mean? It's just he's a fantastic player over the grand scheme of things for £7 million as well.
Yeah, and he is. We've lost a lot of those. You know, Kante's another one. We've lost a few of these guys, but it's yeah, I think Azpilicueta he knew he had to go at that, and it's the right time for him to go. It's a weird one because it's not like Rudiger last year. We wanted him to
Yeah,
stay. I think Rudiger, and I think he would have stayed. You know, if we could have given him a contract, he would have stayed for another 5 years. You know, I think I mean, he was a hell of a talent. You know, and it was unfortunate that he left when he did. But I think
mm,
with Azpilicueta, I think he's just a little bit now. His legs have gone, and I think
yeah,
he would accept that, and he must listen. I mean, he's not an idiot. You know, he listens
yeah.
to the
I think
fans and
he's
to the and no one would ever sort of. abuse him or anything like that. But he
No.
just he knows that his legs are gone. He knows that he can't compete at that level anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a young man's game. I keep saying it. Right back, left back nowadays, it's not like it used to be, where you could have a Steve Clark in there, and you could
Yeah.
just
Gary Neville wouldn't make it now.
yeah,
He would
just
not
bash
make it, man.
bash people around. It doesn't work like that. You've got to be running up and down. And basically you've got to be under the age of 30 these days to do that game, because
Yeah.
it's hardcore. You've
I
got to
think,
be
yeah.
overlapping. You've got to be up and down like a yo-yo. It's probably actually you probably have to be the fittest in the whole of the 11, and
Yeah.
and that's probably the reason why Reece James and Chilwell keep getting injured, because of that reason. Because you have to be so fit and so
Direct, yeah.
dynamic. You've got to be able to pass the ball. You've got to be able to cross the ball, tackle, check back. You've got to do everything, haven't you? It's
Yeah.
a hard game. And I think when we signed Azpilicueta, sorry to interrupt you, when we signed him, we did just sign him as a defender, quite literally, not as a
Anywhere across the back,
not as
yeah.
a winger. And I think it's that the game's changed. Unfortunately, that's just the way.
Yeah.
Not
And
unfortunately, that's just the
and
way it is.
I think he Aspilicueta in himself, by all accounts, I think he's done all his coaching badges already. He's an incredibly astute he's kind of very intuitive with his position within the team and his contributions. And I think last season, I think he knew what his contribution was to be that team, is to be that kind of um, measuring stick of how you should be performing, like how you should, like the effort you put in training, the effort you put to represent Chelsea, that continuation from Chelsea of old. It sounds so weird to say Chelsea of old because he is that last tag. Like he was the longest serving Chelsea player now. Then once Dave left, it was Bubba Rahman, and then Bubba Rahman's since gone, and Kepa's now the longest serving player. But it's a shame, and like I, for one, wish him all the best in Atleti. I think he'd do fantastic for them. It's different league, but it's a bit of a slower league. But then at the same time, I can't see him being played against Vinicius Junior in the Madrid derby. Let's face it. Um, but yeah, let's move. The thing is, like, it leaves a hole in terms of the Chelsea club captain at Chelsea and who's going to be the person to take the helm. Obviously, the natural choice is Thiago Silva. It is, but at the same time, if it's Thiago Silva, he's only going to be captain for a season. So do you think, well, maybe we bypass Silva at this point, leave him as somebody that's like a vice captain or somebody underneath that takes the lead and when he's on the pitch? Do you go for a player? I think the rumours at the moment is Reece James or Enzo Fernandez are the ones favoured for it. Personally, I think I'd prefer to see Reece James. His dad in the press today was saying that his son's always dreamed of being a Chelsea captain. He wants to wear that armband. Is Reece James the next Chelsea captain, or do you feel that potentially his injury record could be held against him?
Look, my opinion of being the captain of a football team, you need to be there every single day and every single week. John Terry very rarely got injured. When you think about it, I don't even need to look on his stats. I'm pretty sure that he played an average of 35, 40 games a season easily. When
Yeah,
he when I was watching him, and it was only
I'm
when
conscious of that as well.
Cahill,
Yeah.
when there was that transition that came
Yeah,
through.
at the end of the season, it was like Cahill, and when we went
Yeah,
with Conte, that's when he started appearing on the bench more because I think
yeah.
Conte went with three at the back and he didn't see Terry as that person.
But I think I think you've got to be there, and I think with Reece James, look, God, we pray, don't we, every day that next season he's gonna bang in 40, 50 games or whatever it
Yeah,
is, or however many games he can. But I you know, let's see what happens in terms of captain. What I would do is for one season give it to Silva, because I think he's the lead at the moment. He is the leader. Give it to him for one season and let's assess it. Let's
reevaluate
just
it.
see. Let's see what happens, because look, next season, this season we're going into is such an unknown. Let's face
Yeah,
it, could be anything. I mean, we don't know if Mudrik's going to be playing. We don't know. We don't know. We've got so many. There's so many kind of so many things going on. If you know what I mean. We've got Potter. We've got a new manager. We've got players probably coming in, players coming out, players who are probably going to be wanting to go out, but they're still in. sitting around on the bench. We've
Mm.
got all these sort of things going on. But the one player who seems to know what he's doing is Thiago Silva, and I'd just give it to him just for the season. This is probably going to be his last season in Europe. Let's face it. You
Well,
know,
yeah. Oh, I thought you meant like in Europe, in like playing European games. That's not happening. But I know what you mean.
no,
It
but
probably will be his last
in
year in
Europe,
Europe as a continent. Yeah.
he's a professional. You give it to him, and let's see what happens around him. And look, you can always halfway through the season go, actually, we'll give it someone else, and it might be a
Yeah.
nice thing to do. Maybe
Yeah.
let's not.
Do you know what? Now that you've kind of phrased it that way, just for the sake of a season, why not? We don't have many experienced players now. You could probably have Thiago Silva and then have Reece James as a vice captain and say, look, Thiago, James are going to be the captain from the season after next. Teach him everything he needs to be taught about how to be a club captain. So it'd probably be a good idea, to be fair. Let's move across to other things. We'll throw that into the comments. Actually, I'll monitor the comments the best I can. Obviously, I've got to do the banners and the comments at the same time. But people watching, I can see there. So just throw in, who do you think would make the best Chelsea captain and why? We'll throw it up in the comments. But we'll move across and we'll come back to it in just a second. Another rumour at the moment is Thiago Silva, funny enough, was at the British Grand Prix yesterday, as was Paulo Dybala of Roma. Paulo Dybala, Thiago Silva asked him if he's going to join us at Chelsea, and Paulo Dybala doesn't kind of fit the mould with the players that Clearlake have been going for. He's 29 years old, he's going to be 30 in November. Um, he does have a very small release clause for a player of his standards. Like the release clause in his Roma contract when he signed is, I think, it's around 10 million euros for a club outside of Italy, which is very, very low. And it's just that, to me, does that sounds like a very low risk kind of investment to kind of have a player at that experience to kind of come into those games where I think if Pochettino does play 4-2-3-1, he could play in that role in behind, and he's also got experience playing in the striker position as well, which it seems it's an area that we're not going to be invested in. Do you think the risk, the benefit outweighs the risk for recruiting a player and a little bit older than what we're going for at the moment?
It's difficult to know, isn't it? And we I don't think we will know until without copping out on the question. I don't think we'll know until September what we're going to be left with. It's going to every day that I read the newspaper, every day that I turn on my laptop, Chelsea. We could be we're linked with everyone, aren't we, at the moment? And but what the consistent theme is that we seem to be buying young players, and we've seemed to be doing that for a while. I
Yeah.
think even if you look at January, you look at there wasn't many old players that we saw. We're not. Personally, I think that it's going to be Caicedo, and we need a strike. We do need a striker, but I don't think we're gonna. I don't
Mm.
think we're gonna get. It doesn't look like we're in the market for a proper
Yeah,
one. If you know what I
exactly.
mean.
I mean, by all accounts, it doesn't look like we are in the market for a striker. I mean, we have bought a striker. We bought Nicholas Jackson. He's capable of playing in off the left and as a number 9. But we also do have Amanda Brozier coming back to fitness. By all accounts, he's training with the first team again. A Cobham graduate. It'd be good to see him get some opportunities in the season. But then we also have Datra Fofana, but it's rumours at the moment for Datra Fofana is joining Union Berlin on a season-long loan. You can see I had that banner ready up to talk about it, but he's going to be joining. So we are short in that area. And of course, Christopher Nkunku, he can play in that position as a number 9, but I think I'd rather see Nkunku play as a number 10 in that scenario, if we are going to play with that number 10 area.
But it doesn't look like we're signing a big striker, does it? Let's
No,
face it at the moment. And look, we're a month until the start of the season. I don't think I think it doesn't look like we're going to sign a goalkeeper. The Inter Milan guy's gone. He's
bizarre,
gone
right?
to Man
I
United.
think
Yeah, bizarre,
I
very
think the
bizarre.
keeper situation's weirder than the striker situation. Do you not think? Because
No,
the
not at
fact
all. Because
we
we've
sold
sold
Mendy,
our only striker, our only striker. We've just sold him to Arsenal. The one that we had all the season
number
last
10.
season.
He's not a striker.
The
Let's face it.
the one who plays in the middle, that bloke. And now we haven't bought anyone in.
We have
Next
Nicholas
season.
Jackson.
yeah, but it's such a risk. This is it's like I just think next season could go any way. Literally, it could go any way. Jackson could end up being Mohamed Salah, or he could end up being a really average
Pierluigi
strike.
Casiraghi,
Yeah, just like or like like a just
Mutu.
like a not a Mutu, like a kind of a Kalu or so, like a
Yeah,
decent player, but like not quite enough to get it over the line. And I think ultimately, look, what's the key for next season? The key for next season is let's try and fight and try and get in the Champions League if we can, or get
yeah.
back into Europe. We've got to do it. We can't have
Well,
what we had last season again. Um, so if we're going to do that, we need to have if we've sold half the players, we've got to at least buy one or two that are going to make the team better.
yeah.
Surely,
I mean, I think we're not going to invest in that area. It's also bizarrely, I think, before at the end of the season, it's like we need to sign a number 9, we need to sign a new goalkeeper, and they're the two areas now. I'm thinking we're not actually going to do that, which is bizarre to me. Like I think less so. I think the fact that we've got Nkuku who's capable of playing there, we've got Nicholas Jackson, we've got Amanda Brozier. Fafana would have been number 4 in that list. He's going on loan. We've got 3 players that are capable of playing in that position. So I think there's less risk in trying to throw hundreds of like dozens of millions of pounds at a player in that scenario now until the right player becomes available instead of just filling a quota for the sake of filling a quota. I think it's better to invest the money in a goalkeeper at this stage, and it's just bizarre that we haven't done so because we've got Mendy's left, he's joined Al Ali, and then we've got Kepper, who's I don't think there's no Chelsea fan that's 100% sold on Kepa. Like he's the man. It's like I'm sure he's a fantastic player, but like person, sorry, but he's
oh yeah, yeah.
nobody's completely sold on him. And that should have been an area where we should have invested. Like the players are out there like Andre Onana from Inter Milan now looking likely to be joining um, Manchester United. Like surely if Chelsea outgoings here, so Chelsea reportedly turned down a £27 million bid from Inter for Romelu Lukaku. Chelsea holding up for 40 million, with Lukaku willing to take a pay cut. Surely we could have done some sort of deal with Inter Milan in that scenario. So do you know what? We want Onana. We need a keeper. Lukaku wants to stay. Can we work something out in this scenario? And please, can we have we kept the receipt for Lukaku? Can we have some of that 97.5 million back? That'd be fantastic. Do you not think? Do you really honestly think that it's weirder that we haven't strengthened in the number 9 position than we have in the goalkeeping position? Because if you look at, we've got Kepa, we've got Bettinelli, and then who do we have? Bergstrom, I think he's the one below that. But then we've got Slanina as well, but he's slightly to go. He's likely to go out on loan also.
I think one thing people keep forgetting is that last season our defensive record was one of the best in the league. The problem was we couldn't get the ball in the back of the net, and
Yeah,
we've sold our striker. We've sold the only person who could get the ball in the back of the net. Not very occasionally, but he occasionally did. And
yeah.
now we're left. We haven't really done anything in that position. We've been so worried about the midfield. I think that could come to croppers. I think I've got a funny feeling that Lukaku. There's something possibly bubbling there where that maybe they'll give him 6 months. I don't know. I just got a funny feeling because
Oh, I
you
can't
know.
see it, Charlie. No, I
Well, I
think
don't want
I
it.
think
I don't.
I think
I
Lukaku's off. I think he is. I don't think he wants to be at the club. The fact he's willing to take a pay cut to leave Chelsea says speaks volumes. I think he wants out. And I think ever since that interview, I think he messed it up a lot with Chelsea fans that he conducted with Italian TV in his season back at the club. I can't see him like.
but
Do,
then
do you know? Do you not think that maybe? Let me just throw this out there, and here's an idea. Maybe it's just me, football managering in my head. But the fact is, you could probably stick to Nkoku, Nicholas Jackson, and Armando Brozier for the first 6 months of the season. See how you get on with that. We don't have any Europe as well, so we have to factor that in as well. But then also, Ivan Tony's ban comes to an end in January.
yeah, but
So
he's not
could
our
that?
player, is he?
No, but you could, in theory, buy that player then.
Yeah, but if you wanted to buy Tony, you buy him now. You get him
You
cheaper
can't buy
now.
him. You can't buy him now. Why
Well,
would you?
you're not allowed to buy him.
You can't do any footballing activity at all. There's no point
Yeah, I
buying
know,
him.
but you get
You
him really
can't
cheap,
buy him.
wouldn't you? Or
You
Brentford
you,
would.
you
You can't
can't buy
actually
him.
buy him. Really? I
You
didn't know
can't
that.
buy him.
I thought you could just
He
buy him.
can't move. He's got to stay until his band's expired.
Okay, so let's say Broja, right? Broja's still injured at the moment. It's not training, is he?
He's training.
He's back, yeah.
First team training. Yeah, he was doing the sprint drills. So he's
Okay,
training.
so
He'll be
so
ready
he,
by the start of
so
the season.
so he's back. I mean, he's the only one that out of them, in my opinion, that I actually could see holding that position because he's
But that's
because he's
because
a,
that's
he's
because
he's a one man band. He's a one man operation,
but
and
that's
that's what we
because you
need.
don't.
It's
But that's because you haven't seen Nkuku and Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea yet. Do you not think that just because you've seen him there? Because he only did it for a few games at Chelsea, and we've seen him do it at Southampton. But do you not think that that's probably potentially a factor in your thinking behind that?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. But that's what I'm being as frank as I can. That's what that's the only guy at the moment, right? In football in the Premier League, no one plays with two up front. Everyone plays with one up front. You play with a man in the middle. You need a strong man.
Mm.
And at Chelsea, we've had since probably Costa, I would say, we've
Yeah,
never
he's not
really
been long
had
time.
that guy, that man. And that's what we need, isn't it? We need that guy. We had Drogba, we had Hasselbank, these kind of players, big lads in the middle with a bit of aggression. That's what
Yeah,
we need. I mean, Havertz, I mean, yeah, nice bloke, but unfortunately, it was a bit tame, wasn't he? Let's face it, he was a bit tame when it came to battling and really being a bit aggressive. In this league, unfortunately, I think that's what got the cropper of him. Is the league is physical, and
yeah,
you've got to be a bit of a bastard, like excuse my French, to do this job at the moment. That's how it has to be, you know.
yeah. And I think Ivan Toney's perfectly capable of doing that. So give it 6 months, and then probably if it's not working out, just go out and buy Ivan Toney and make that the one sign that we do. I'm a
Yeah,
big advocate of trying to bring him in. There's Timber here, so I think we want to sign a striker. I think we won't sign a striker until Lukaku's off the book, same way we didn't sign other players until other players were sold. I think that's a valiant point. Thank you very much for contributing, Timber, when you're 6,000 miles, 5,000 miles away in a different time zone. Couldn't join the podcast though, but whatever. No, it does make sense, and also we got to get rid of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who's still on the books at £170,000 a week with another year deal. Sounding him out to Saudi Arabia currently as we speak at the moment. So hopefully we can try and get something sorted for that in that area, and then we get it sorted. And I think it's Dusan Vlahovic has potentially been sounded out from Juventus.
mm.
Vlahovic, I don't know about you. I don't know how much you've seen of him, but he gives me Morata vibes.
Yeah, yeah. And
He
this is the
gives me
problem,
Morata vibes.
the one player that I look at there's two in the Premier League at the moment that I would like, and that's Tony and the Fulham
Mitrovic.
guy, Mitrovic. Yeah, I don't know what it is about that guy, but he's a bit. I like the aggression of that guy, and I think that's
Yeah,
what we need. We need a. I keep saying it. I keep going back to it. It's probably getting boring for people, but we need that. At Chelsea, we've always had those. Those are the players. Dennis Wise,
they're
John
the
Terry.
players that
They're the
succeed.
guys. Yeah, they are. We're not the nice guys. We never have been at Chelsea. We're the guy. Mourinho. We've got this Abramovich. We've always had that reputation where we win by force, not by being nice or by playing
Yeah,
pretty or anything like that. And I think it's just a Chelsea thing. And I'm a true believer in fate. And I just got a funny feeling that those sort of players. And Morata was a bit soft. Havertz very soft. We need a
a,
big guy in the
a
middle,
bullish player. Yeah,
a bully. Yeah, a bully. You
yeah.
know, and
It's Ivan
that's what
Toney,
I think
mate.
that's what we
We'll
need.
wait patiently. Come January, Ivan
Mm,
Toney, number 9. I can see it. Don't give him
mm.
number 9. Retire number 9. I was looking at the decent Vlahovic stats. Last season isn't particularly fantastic for Juventus. It was 1 in 3. So he's not exactly lighting up the league. And if you're going to buy any player from Serie A, you're going to go for a Seaman. Clearly, that's the player that you'd go for and spend 100 million on. So we'll see. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, if we can ship out Lukaku and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, we can probably revisit this at some point in a couple of weeks. Yeah, let's have a look here. So another one, another Chelsea outgoing here is your favourite player of all time. Um, Captain America himself, Charlie. I'm
I
sure
changed my mind on him
you
last week.
are.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I'm
I think it's because I convinced you. I think I sweet talk. Put the salesman on you, and that's what it was. And convinced you
well.
otherwise. But I'll announce this. The deal has been agreed with Christian Pulisic that sees him join
Oh,
AC Milan on a fee rising to £20 million. We said last week, both of us, that under Pochettino, we would have liked to have seen him given a chance to play that kind of high pressing style and see how he fares. But it's like the time has come to an end, and I kind of feel like we've kind of missed the not missed the boat. What's the word I'm looking for? Maybe missed the boat with him, but like it's just kind of not really worked out as best as we hoped for. Like he wasn't able to get back to the form that he was uh, during lockdown, did he?
we've done it. I mean, over the years, Salah is a classic, obviously. Schürrle is another one. We've had players over the years that have done better, obviously, when they've left Chelsea. And Pulisic, he's annoying me, and I've said it all along. He's annoying me because I know that he's a great player. I know
Yeah,
that he is, but I just he annoyed he's just never quite done it, for us. And it's kind of sad in a way. It's kind of depressing because I think he's a good guy, and I think I know that there's probably people watching now from America, and I mean, Thames out there at the moment, but I mean. I do like the guy. I really do like the guy, but he's just never quite. It annoys me more when players don't
quite
fulfill their
hit.
potential when more
Yeah,
than when they don't have the talent, if that makes sense. And there's other players who just don't have the talent and they're just rubbish. But Pulisic, I knew he had the talent and he just never quite did it. You
you
know,
do make an interesting point though. The fact that we're selling him to Milan, could it be something like a Mohamed Salah type situation, a Kevin De Bruyne situation, when the player is shipped out at a fairly young age, goes to a club. De Bruyne went to Wolfsburg. Salah went to Fiorentina, and
Schürrle went to Schalke. I'm guessing. Is it
no,
Schalke?
Schürrle. Where did Schürrle go to?
Wolfsburg, I
Wolfsburg.
think.
One of them.
It was one of the German who was half decent at
I
the
just
time.
don't. Yeah, I think the difference being, I don't think Schürrle's heart was really in professional football. I think that's why he retired quite early, to be fair. But if you look at those type of players, they then came back to the Premier League, and De Bruyne is arguably the greatest midfielder to ever play in the Premier League. Like it's fair to say, I'm a Chelsea fan. I've got a special place with Frank Lampard, but it's fair to say he probably is the best midfielder to have ever done it. And Salah is unbelievable for Liverpool. We kind of missed the boat with that player. Could we potentially see Pulisic going to AC Milan, tearing it up, getting a move to Liverpool or Newcastle, and all of a sudden becomes the new revelation and comes back to bite us in the arse? It does sound like a very Chelsea thing.
Probably, but we've done what can we do? What more can we do? I think we have given him a fair crack of the whip. He's been at Chelsea for what 3 or 4 years now. I would say
4 years, yeah,
he's got 1 year left on his contract.
yeah,
It's basically excuse the French, shit or bust. We've got to make a move basically. Either we give him an extra year or an extra 2 years, or we sell him, and we've decided to sell him. I mean, very similar to the Ziyech situation. We've given the guy I think a fair crack of the whip, but it's we're very loaded in those positions, and they've never just quite worked for us. It's a weird one in a way with Pulisic because the way that we play, it should fit our system perfectly. I think I've never understood that.
yeah.
Ziyech, I've kind of had more of a sympathy with him because I just don't think we haven't got a big bloke up front who can take advantage of his brilliant crosses.
Until
Whereas
Ivan Tony joins.
yeah, but
But
but if you
even then we wouldn't play that way. We just wouldn't. Even if you could sign the best header of the ball ever been experienced in football, and Chelsea would still try and pass it in. We just would.
I mean that's one of the most interesting things about when we start actually watching Pochettino's football because I
Be
think it's going to
interesting.
change a lot. I've just got a feeling some of these lads are going to really get and they need to. They need a bit of a kick up the backside, to be honest. And I think they're going to be running a lot more than people believe. And the fact that we've got a young team, the fact that we've got young players, could actually work really in our favour. because these guys naturally are going to be fitter. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm 33, believe it or not, and I
I
can't
don't.
I can't run as much as I used to. Do you know what I mean? But you do you know
You
what I
can
mean?
shout though.
I
You
can
can shout. I
shout.
can confirm. Played football with Charlie. He is a shouter. There was a point when we played football on Thursday at 6 aside. I'll let you into the thing. Where I said he literally started sounding like a Cockney Disney villain at some point. It was like, yeah, or like in the Houses of Parliament where they make those little funny noises. We're like, yeah, and they sound like sheep. That was you, but more guttural and like, ugh. It was
Yeah,
the
because
manliest thing
because
I've
I
ever
can't
heard.
I make up for the lack of running with my voice. But the point I'm trying to make is having a young team is
Yeah,
will do us favors. They need to run around. And the good thing is as well, I mean it's huge risk, isn't it? They're on long contracts, right? These
yeah.
guys. If it works nicely, it could be brilliant. If it doesn't work nicely, it could be a disaster. And that's why I keep saying it. Next season is the most important season in Chelsea's history. Said it,
It's
for a long time.
it's definitely gonna set up the next 10 years at Chelsea, how things go. Let's put it that way. I think it's quite an important season. I think maybe not having Europe could potentially be a bit of a silver lining. I don't want to say blessing in disguise. It's not a blessing in disguise. It's like, kind of like a silver lining in that scenario. We can focus entirely on getting the best out of the best finish we possibly can. Because if we end up in like 10th or ninth or something like that, it's not good. Like I think we need to be hitting. Even do you know, I'd accept Europa League next season. I really would because it
Ah,
would be better than the season just gone. But yeah, anyway, I digress. So it looks like we've kind of rounded up here everything that we've got so far. Nice little snapshot into the week of Chelsea. Temba will return next week, other than posting comments from his hotel room or in a Vegas casino. He'll return next week to contribute. Finally put his weight. Do you know what I mean? Put his socks up, put his weight. Just shocking. He didn't even do the preview this week. I had to do it. What's that about? We'll take interviews with people. Dale, we'll get you on instead. You come every week. Temba doesn't. Anyway, I digress. But thank you very much for joining the We Talk Chelsea podcast. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I really greatly appreciate it. We were live on TKS TV. Also, we will see you all next week at 9:30 p.m. where hopefully we can have maybe a striker or a goalkeeper. But I'm not going to hold my breath. Charlie, have a fantastic week. Thank you very much for joining. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.
bye bye.